Welcome everyone. Today let's learn something about Francis Bacon, the father of English essays. Bacon was born in the year 1561 and died in the year 1626. He is also known as Viscount of St. Alban or Lord Verulam. He was born as the younger son of Sir Nicholas Bacon, the Lord Keeper of the Great Seal under Queen Elizabeth. At the age of 13, he went up to Cambridge with his elder brother. He left the university after 3 years. He then studied law and became a bencher of Gray's Inn in 1586. He served as the Attorney General and as Lord Chancellor of England. Bacon developed the scientific method and remained influential through the scientific revolution. He can be called as the father of English essays and also the father of the School of Empiricism. School of Empiricism is a school of philosophy, and this school of philosophy considers knowledge which is coming only from sensory experience. He argued for the possibility of scientific knowledge which is based only upon the inductive reasoning and careful observation of events in nature. Bacon was the first recipient of the Queen Elizabeth's Council designation. He was appointed as the legal advisor of Elizabeth I. Bacon was knighted by James I and then Baron Verulam, then as Baron Verulam in 1618 and Viscount of St. Alban in 1621. His works can be roughly divided into three: scientific works, religious and literary works, and judicial works. Major works are The Advancement of Learning, which was published in the year 1605, and Novum Organum, which is a Latin work that is in 1626. Then another one, that's a utopian novel, that is New Atlantis, published in the year 1627. Then Bacon wrote number of essays in English, total 58 essays in English. His fame rests mainly on his essays. They embody the ideas of a great mind and gleaned as they are from his own experiences. They reveal a wealth of common sense and practical wisdom. Their distinctive quality rests on their aphoristic style. Aphoristic style or epigrammatic style. That means and the quality of a proverb-like quality of sentences. That is what Bacon's essays had. His essays were very brief and each sentence carried a lot of meaning in it. Their brevity and precision are in contrast to the looseness of thought and language that marked the works of an age of romance. If we are comparing the essays with Michel Montaigne, the French counterpart of Bacon, we can understand Montaigne's essays were very light and picarous, very loose in style, whereas Francis Bacon's essays were very lofty, serious and penetrating. Bacon's essays had an epigrammatic terseness. They are that much brief and they brought universal currency of proverb. Bacon believed in the spirit of new Renaissance humanism and true to the spirit of inquiry. Great thinkers of the Renaissance such as Voltaire and Diderot considered Bacon as the father of modern science. The first biography of Bacon was written by his private chaplain William Raleigh in the year 1657 after his demise. Some of the essays written by Bacon are Of Great Place, Of Friendship, Of Parents and Children, Of Love, Of Goodness and Goodness of Nature, of Travel, of Riches, of Ambition, of Nature in Men, of Youth and Age, of Death, of Unity in Religion, of Adversity, of Religion, etc. Then let's move on to the essay of Studies. Studies serve for delight, for ornament and for ability. Their chief use of delight is in privateness and retiring, for ornament in discourse and for ability in the judgment and disposition of business. So first of all is starting with the importance of studies. Which are the uses of studies? Studies serve for delight, for ornament and for ability. The use of studies can be divided into three categories. For delight, that means for entertainment. For ornament, that means knowledge is like an ornament for every person. For gaining respect from others, knowledge or studies can be used. And for ability, that means it can be used for practical purposes. So their chief use of delight. So he is going to the points in detail. The chief use for delight is in privateness and retiring. So studies serve as a source of entertainment while a person is in a private talk or in a retirement time. Then for ornament, studies or knowledge can be used as an ornament in discourse, in debates, and for ability in the judgment. Ability in the judgment means in our practical life we have to decide which is good, which is bad, about people, things, places, about our course of life, decisions, etc. For all these things we need knowledge, and that can be gained only by reading books and by experience. So next, for expert men can execute and perhaps judge of particulars one by one, but the general counsels and the plots and marshalling affairs come best from those that are learned. So for expert men, for experienced men, they can execute their knowledge and perhaps judge, they can use it in their judgment. Then, but the general counsels, general advices, and the plots and marshalling of affairs, the execution of affairs, come best from those that are learned. Only from the learned people, great decisions are aroused. Then next, to spend too much time in studies is lost. And understanding all these uses of studies, if one person is spending too much time, all of his time in studies, if he are sitting all the time in front of books, that can be accepted. That's a bookworm like nature. It's sloth, it's laziness. That means he is taking himself away from his duties. Other duties will be there. So he is taking himself away from it. So that can be called as sloth or laziness. And to use them too much for ornament is affectation. That means if one person is a learned man and if that person is using his knowledge too much in his talkings as an ornament, it is affectation. That is very much boring to people who are listeners. To make judgment wholly by their rules is the humor of a scholar. And also, if we are judging something or someone fully based on bookish knowledge. It is folly. It's a source of humor. And they perfect nature and are perfected by experience. Studies perfect our nature, our character, and are perfected by experience. And studies are perfected by experience. Bookish knowledge and empirical knowledge both are different, and both of them should be united in one person. They contribute each other. Then, for natural abilities are like natural plants, they need pruning by study. And he is giving an example. For natural plants, we should give them pruning to give beauty, neatness, etc. And that wilderness, uncivilized nature should be pruned. And that pruning will be made through studies. So, for our natural abilities, pruning is needed. So, that pruning is done through studies. So, our nature is perfected by our studies. And studies themselves do give forth directions too much too large, except they are bounded by experience. So, studies are pruning our talents, and if studies are blended with our experience, that will be the greatest treasure for a person in their life. Then crafty men contempt studies. They don't like studies. Simple men admire them. Simple men admire the scholars. And wise men use them. And wise people, what will they do? They are using their studies in their life. For they teach not in their own use, but that is a wisdom without them and above them, won by observation. And studies is not only bookish knowledge. Knowledge we are getting through observation is the greatest one. Read not to contradict and confute. If we have knowledge, that should not be used for contradicting and quarreling with somebody, nor to believe and take for granted. And also we should not gulp everything what we are reading. We should not take everything we are reading for granted. We should read between the lines. We should use our reasoning power to understand the credibility and the meaning of the reading material. Then, nor to find talk and discourse, but to weigh and consider. So, what is the actual use of studies? It is to weigh and consider. That is what he said in the beginning itself, to judge, for judgment, for weighing and considering things and matters. Some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. Some books, here Bacon is talking about the types of books and the types of reading they needed according to the category they are included. Some books are to be tasted. That means only a tasting is needed. Then others to be swallowed. That means without tasting, that they should be swallowed. And some few to be chewed and digested. Some books are to be read word by word and discussed in detail. And that is, some books are to be read only in parts, that is tasted. Okay, and others to be read but not curiously, that is for swallowing. and some few to be read wholly with diligence and attention, that is chewing and digesting. Some books also may be read by deputy, by our assistants, and extracts made of them by others, but that would be only in the less important arguments. And the meaner sort of books, some meaner sort of books will be there. For them we should not spend our time for reading such books. So for some meaner sort of books, for them what should we do? We have to read the notes made by our deputies or assistants only. That is enough for them. Else distilled books are like common distilled waters, flashy things. Some books are like flashy things. That means nothing important will be there. So for them, some summary will be enough for them. Then the second part, reading make the full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man, is a proverb like sentence. Reading make the full man. So reading is making a full man, and conference means the practice of those studies, making a ready man, and writing an exact man. So writing is the foremost one, and that is needed for making an exact man. And therefore, if a man write little, he had need have a great memory. So if a person is writing a little, that will be beneficial for improving our memory. That will be always in our memory if we are writing. Writing makes an exact man. And if he confer little, he had need have a present wit, and if he read little, he need have much cunning. That means if a person has wit, that means if a person is very intelligent, wise, practical wisdom is there, he does not need to read much. He can use his cunning to make others believe that he is reading much. Histories make men wise. So then the different fields of studies and their uses. He is saying histories make men wise, and poets witty. Poems make us witty, and mathematics subtle. That means subtle observation, that ability to observe something in detail, that will be developed. That concentration can be developed by practicing mathematics. And natural philosophy, deep moral grave. Natural philosophy will give us moral values, logic and rhetoric able to contend. And Abuan studia in mos, it's a Latin sentence. Studies develop manners. Studies, what is the utmost outcome of studies? That is character development. And they develop our manners. Nay, there is no stone, obstacle or impediment in the wit, but may be wrought out by fit studies, like diseases of the body may have appropriate exercises. Here Bacon is saying that like we have diseases and exercises, what is the relation between them? Like bowling is good for stone, kidney stone, etc. and shooting for lungs and breast. Like that, for each disease we have separate physical exercises recommended by our doctors or physiotherapists. Like that, here Bacon is prescribing some fields of studies for different illness or flaws of our mind or character. So, if a man's wit be wandering, if he is not getting much concentration, let him study the mathematics. That there will be the benefit. And for in demonstrations, for his wit be called away never so little, he must begin again. And if his wit be not apt to distinguish or find differences, and if a person has no discretion capacity, what should he do? Let him study the schoolmen, that means scholastic philosophy. For they are chimney sectors, they are hair splitters. The philosophers are studying everything, every minute details. So they are hair splitters, and that will be beneficial for a person to develop discretion capacity. And if he be not apt to beat over matters and to call up one thing to prove and illustrate another, let him study the lawyer's cases. And if a person is not able to win in discourses and debates, what should he do? Or is not able to prove himself before others, what should he do? Let him study the lawyer's cases. Let him study law. So every defect of the mind may have special receipt. So for every defect of our mind, there are ways to repair in studies. So through studies, we can repair our mind. That is the gist of the essay of studies by Francis Bacon. Hope everyone understood. Thank you all.